Beautiful.
And we're off. And that can sit there so I can...
Have you got a mic as well, or are you...
I'm just going to speak loudly so that picks me up.
Fantastic.
I don't have the funds to own another mic just yet. Also, I lost it.
Oh, man.
I did have two and I lost the other
Could you not put it in the middle, or is it... Anyway,
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I want it... The
Yes.
people want to hear you.
Okay,
They don't want to hear me.
Okay.
This is about you today. By the way, this is David, everyone. David Hall,
How are you doing?
aka Nostalgia Kid, before I forget to actually properly introduce you.
I always want to go like that for some reason.
Put the guns up.
Yeah. Hey, man.
But I know that we've only met on like a few occasions, and I love your work, and you've said you enjoy mine, and we've been out on
yeah.
a photography walk once.
Yeah.
When we did like the Newcastle project, which is great, by the way.
Thank you very much.
But I've always kind of thought that I wanted to sit down with you because I just feel like, you know, when you meet someone, you're like, I bet you're so interesting to just sit down and talk to.
Well, this
and
is...
I just wanted to kind of like just learn more about you, basically. Because it's one thing to kind of see all the photos that you take and the lovely documentary work that you do with people and bands and places. But it's nice to just kind of know where all that creativity and also like love for documentary and people comes from.
Wow, that's a... So...
Quite a chunky question.
That's a big question. I just think... I mean, just walking around Newcastle, I've always been interested in just walking around looking and stuff, and I think once I got an iPhone, I thought, you know what it is? I can take some nice easy shots and just enjoy photography, and I think from there it just kind of grew into something a bit more, and then once you start meeting people like yourself and the bands, you know, it just becomes more of a, we can go a bit further with it and we can expand on it, or we can do something different or else.
So we're shooting on an iPhone, like your entry into
Pretty much, yeah.
photography?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So basically, when Instagram came out, because I'm a bit of a punk when it comes to like DIY stuff, and because I didn't have a camera per se, I never thought I would be a photographer, but I always thought in pictures and imagined images. So when I got an iPhone, I thought, hang on a sec, you can take photographs and just enjoy it. Then Instagram came out, you can edit them. There's means to do this. So when they came out together, it kind of set off this kind of like, right, I can do something here. And then once you start meeting people online, and you sort of like people in Paris and New York who were digging stuff from Newcastle, I was thinking, hang on a second, New York, Paris, Newcastle, we're as good as anybody else in the world. So I thought, let's promote Newcastle. And then from there, just kind of...
And where did your love for, like, particularly having a focus on, like, people and documenting people come from? Like, why people?
I think that's a good question. And the only thing I can really think of is the more photographs I took, the more I realised I wanted to get closer to the subject. And what gets closer than actually being this close to someone? So I think that's what draws me to people, is the fact that you can have a conversation with them, but just getting close to them and just taking that photograph it's a privilege to get that close.
It's also sounds like, of course I'm going to try and shoehorn in Wellbeing here, but let's see, just the way you were saying there though, like you're trying to capture like a moment, like, and it's funny that on the way here I was thinking about like, what do I want to kind of like touch on with David, like what are the kind of questions I want to ask, and one of them was within that realm of, because I know from my perspective, when I got into photography, that the thing I enjoyed about documentary was it gave me a fresh perspective on how I view the world, and it's quite mindful to look for these, what you say, moments, and to capture something that would otherwise be forgotten, or that you might have missed. And particularly when it comes to people, kind of just capturing these small moments in time, and a feeling
Mhm.
and a person's personality. It's quite like a mindful process.
It's funny because that's how I approach photography. It has to be mindful. It's like with the Newcastle project. I mean, we went out for a walk, and it was just to meet for a coffee, have a chat, got our cameras, and we just went for a walk, and we were just mindful of each other, and we took a few shots, and it just develops from there. You know, everyone you meet, you're taking a photograph. That's a memory of that meeting. It's documenting that moment, and for me, that's the joy of photography. Is we've caught something, we've made a photograph together, and they've got something, I've got something, and we can move on, and that'll always be there. You know, being creative, it's like I can imagine there's so many people out there who've got so much creativity, but I feel so, you know, bound up in this, like this, I don't know, they can't get it out. But with a camera, a day like today, you just go out, see something you like, take a photograph, and just forget, be in the moment. And that's what I love about documenting. It's like being in that moment is the thing, really. You're in that moment, and then in 10 years' time, that moment will be there, and this moment will be here, and it's just a perpetual kind of like circle, really.
And do you ever have you got like a moment in time or like a set of photographs, something where you kind of remember like a deeper feeling that it gave you?
Oh, yes.
When you kind of like when you were kind of doing that project of shooting those photos.
When I do a lot of band photography, and there's been times when I've been at a gig, and you can just feel the atmosphere, and you feel like you're sort of part of that whole experience, you know. And it's what you were saying about capturing a moment in time. Take a few photographs, and then you look at them, and like from 2 years ago, they're gone, and like, but those people are just locked in time, you know. And there's so many people look back on them photographs with me, and they just think, oh my God, I'm really glad you took them, because I was a witness. It's pretty cliched stuff, really, but I think that's how I kind of view it on a basic level. Obviously, there's nuances and stuff that go with it, but
what are the nuances that go with it? Oh, is that you ringing?
This is one of the nuances. Oh, it's my sister.
Right, you can answer it if you want.
Hi, Catherine. I'm fine. Catherine, can I give you a ring? Yeah, I'm in the middle of a podcast. Okay, I will. I'll see you later. Bye.
You'll not believe it, but I'm actually quite famous, Catherine. I'm actually in a podcast quite now.
I should turn that off, really. That's great. I'll give her a $5 later. Anyway. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Hi, God, it's Ridley Scott. Here you go.
Not again, Ridley.
Hiya, you would. Honestly, I'm in the middle of a podcast, Ridley. I'll give you a call back.
Did I really? That sounded really pretentious, didn't it? But I thought I'd try and impress my sister. Anyway, where was I? Where were we?
And like, how did you like grow into the photographer that you are now? Because as we were talking about downstairs before we came up here, like it's a lot of stepping outside your comfort zone to kind of like grow into the creative that we'll find ourselves, you know, speaking to now. And you know, what was that process like of becoming this guy who's here in front of me?
That's a great question. As all your questions are great, Alex, I must admit. I think the older you get, the more you realise that the opportunities are just disappearing fast. So at some stage in your life, you just got to grab the moment. And it became apparent to me that there was something happening with my photography. And then there was a stage where I thought, it's like a process, really. So it'd be like one thing would lead to another, but I always knew that I wanted just to be out there, really, just to, and put myself in a zone where I was out of my comfort zone, because the people I'm photographing, they're out of their comfort zone as well. So you've got to put yourself in that sort of place to get the shots. Because if you didn't talk to people, you would never get the shots, you know. And the amount of people I've talked to and photographed, they're just amazing moments, you know. And I've got photographs of them. So I think, does that answer that question?
Yeah, totally. And I think as well that notion of connection, because I think a lot of photography comes with that process of also having to kind of be a good speaker or someone who can quite quickly put people at a comfortable space so that you can kind of like take the best photograph and get the best out of them.
Of course.
Like, how do you like approach that in terms of like having to connect with people? And
well, I think I'm just honest with people, you know. It's like, because I think in general we'll get along well with people, you know. And I think mostly if someone agrees to be photographed, then they probably want to be photographed as well. So it's just a case of just showing them what your purpose of photographing them is about, so they know there's going to be a final kind of like process to it. So yeah, I just think communication and talk, and even if you don't get a photograph, at least you've talked to somebody and you've given them the opportunity, and they've given me the opportunity to discuss it.
And what are some of like, because I always like thinking about this, like what are some photography moments you've had, or like moments on your creative journey where you've been like, I fucked up, or that was
every day,
that was shit, or I can't believe I've done that?
Well, all the time really. It's like, you know, it's like you have a set mode where you know you're in and you know you're going to get a decent photograph. But if you're walking around for 2 hours with someone, you know, you can't be like throwing out amazing shots every 2 minutes. You've got to talk, get in the situation where the light is, where you think, oh, that's going to be a good shot of them. So you can't be on it all the time. You're going to make 20 mistakes before you get one half decent shot. And if you're lucky, you'll get one amazing shot. So, but it's just being with that person and having that opportunity to have an opportunity to make the shot. That's what I look for.
It sounds like you're striking a balance of, again, going back to like mindfulness of like, you know, the creative space, but striking that balance of knowing when to be present with someone versus knowing when to actually take a photo.
You see, that's the thing. It's like that bruising the scene. What I was saying, it's like that was you know, when you were asking us about, you know, what I like about photography now, about getting close to people. I prefer that, where it's more of an honest approach, but I'm still drawn to the streets because I like to document the everyday that's going on in the city. You know, and the shots I've taken on my iPhone 13 years ago or something, you know, they're not even there now, the places, so they're still relevant in their own way. So potentially they'll be relevant in 20 years' time as such.
Have you always just been this calm and just very like, you know, like, because you do have just this like mindful, like,
wow, that's
kind of like awe and authenticity about you. Kind of almost like you kind of get a sense that like you've been through things in your life and you've came out the other side with like a wiser outlook, and you just kind of have this like calmness about you, which is quite like,
that's
just quite lovely.
Well, that's, you see, because obviously inside, you know, I mean, I've got the anxieties like anybody. But I just think it's that thing we're talking about, honesty you're talking about. So it's like, here I am, and it's like this is like going out into the deep end, and I can't feel my feet on the bottom of the swimming pool. But all my life, it's always just been a build-up to letting yourself be in that vulnerable position where you feel safe, but you're out of your comfort zone, but you can still see the creativity that could come from it.
The version of you now versus the version of you maybe like 15, 20, however many years ago, like, do you see a huge difference in terms of where you were versus where you are now, and, you know, what you've overcame?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's like we were saying about earlier about the photography, how you're just progressing all the time, you know. And I think as a person you progress, you know. It's like relationships, children, all these things come along, jobs, opportunities, yeah, I think at last I'm in a place where my creativity's finally caught up with us. And it's like, whoa, yeah, I can do this. So I'm going to do it as much as I can.
Got no choice.
Yeah, well,
I'm committed.
I can't stop now.
Like, what's that like, reflecting back and knowing the things that you've been through to get to this point? Like, what's it like to look back on that and to kind of like see yourself now in this position and be like, oh, I'm doing the thing?
It's brilliant. It's like, I really feel it's worth the journey. You know, I think that's the thing. It's like, nothing's straightforward, nothing's set out for you. It's like, yeah, you're going to come up against a few problems, and I just think it's funny you mentioned mindfulness, because I think cognitively that's where I start from. I try and live in the moment, like me photography. This is the moment. There's nothing I can do about the past, and the future is unwritten, as Joe Strummer said, the great Joe Strummer. And so I think, yeah, just living in this moment is the most, the important thing. So doing that, talking to you now, this is great, man. Look at the sun's out. It's just brilliant, man. And it's. So yeah, I just think being in the moment, even when you're taking photographs, that's where you are. You're not thinking about your shopping. You're there with that person.
Where do you think that ethos came from you, in terms of like that whole, the past is the past, be present, like the whole mindfulness, like of what you were talking of, like where did that all stem from, do you think?
Well, I think that comes from, if you get anxiety, for instance, the worst thing you can do, well, no, the worst thing is like, it's either run or freeze, or that was it fight or flight.
Yeah.
So I decided to fight, and I think the best way to do that is to be in a moment and just let everything pass over you, and then just concentrate on what you're doing, and it'll soon pass, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's why it's taken a long time to get to that stage, but it's worth it. And I always think, be in the moment, just be cool, just sit down if you need to and just let it all flow, and then you're moving on, and it just becomes natural. It becomes like a second nature to you.
So had you struggled with anxiety in the past then, or is it something that
God,
just?
I think everybody must struggle from. I've struggled in the past when I was. Oh God! There you go.
Again.
You're just about to get to the juicy bits.
I know. We will be coming back to the juicy bits.
Yeah.
So right, back to the juicy bits.
Oh, the juicy bits. Yes.
Have you struggled with anxiety before in your life?
I have, yes. When I was younger, I mean, not to put a light sort of thing on it. I did when I was at school. I really struggled, and I think that's when I sort of kind of got into the mindfulness. I mean, a lot later on, once you realise, you have got a few anxiety problems. But now I would just say to anyone, just, you're in that moment, just be, think, hey, this is a great place to be, this is the best day ever, and this is where we're at. And eventually, over time, you kind of you just set your mind, like, I don't know, you just sort of like rewire yourself, if you can, and thoughts come, and then they go, and you're in a good place when you keep focused.
Had you ever been? And you don't need to go.
No, it's alright. I don't mind.
Have you ever been to therapy to learn these ways of coping, or have you discovered these just as you've grown?
No, I did actually go to a counsellor. I did 10 sessions with a counsellor, because I was thinking, I was getting to that age where I was like, I'm really feeling like pressure here, and I just went to the doctors and I just said, look, I'm feeling a bit, and you go, what, you see this woman, she's an amazing counsellor. And it was just great. I just talked to them, and they talked about cognitive, therapy and stuff, but the mindfulness is the one that really struck with me, and that was about 20 years ago now, and I just and every day I just, think what I've got to do. I've got my camera, You know, I've got my family, and I just think this is great. Got a great job, but that's not to say every day isn't something happens, because everybody has thoughts. Everybody struggles with their health mentally and physically. You know, it's all interwoven. Not right.
I think it's that thing where, and this comes up all the time in conversation with me now, and maybe it's because I'm just at that point in my life where it just makes sense to me to think like this. But I do also think it's very true that you can often boil down the things that you're struggling with to the fact that it's because you as a person can't cope, or you need to learn how to cope with what life's thrown at you, rather than looking at it from a perspective of, oh, this isn't unique to me, this is just a life thing which so many people will go through, and it's not the fact that you can't cope with it personally, it's just the fact that this is what life is like sometimes, and these feelings come up and things get hard, and sometimes you have thoughts like this, or you think like that, and your anxiety gets to a place where it feels uncontrollable for a month. But it's not a you issue. Sometimes it is just like, it's a life thing. Life is shit and life is hard. I was literally talking to it about my mum last weekend when I was podcasting with her, and we were just talking about the fact that life, when people say life's hard, it is hard. It's also beautiful.
That's
but
the thing.
It does absolutely boot the door down sometimes, and you just kind of think, God, where's this came from? And it can feel quite discombobulating, but that's just what life's like.
Yeah, and look at this. I mean, put it into perspective. Here we are on a balcony in Shieldfield, talking to each other about creativity and mental health and any other subject that you want to ask us or we talk about. And this is a beautiful day, isn't it? And all we're thinking about is like this beautiful day. And I think that's the kind of place that I wish everyone could get to. And it's not easy, because I think what you say, okay, we all feel the same, but everybody's individually different. And you can't, just because I did what I did, it's just one way, or what you did is another way. And I think everybody just needs to find something that they can relate to, or people that can relate to, and who can help them.
Well, I suppose there's a better way to explain that, is like, we all can feel the same feelings, but how those feelings manifest themselves in terms of how we perceive what they mean and what that means for us in the world. How we deal with all that can be quite different, but
absolutely,
you can feel anxious, I can feel anxious, you can feel hope, joy, sadness, and I can feel all those things, but our perceptions of what that feels like individually and what that means in the world around us can be quite varied.
I mean, it's like, you see someone who's like struggling, and back in the day, be like, come on, get a grip, man. You're like, that's the wrong attitude. You need to say, oh my goodness, what can I do to help you? But then if someone, this is a question I was going to ask you actually, if someone is struggling and you can see that they're struggling and you want to help them, but they don't want to be helped themselves, how do you get that person to come out of themselves to admit that they need help?
Now that's a good question.
Thank you very much. I thought it would be. I've been thinking about that all week.
What's one question I can just throw his way?
Yes.
I think for me, because often people can't be helped unless they actively want to help themselves. But often if I'm met with people who aren't in the right place or space to start progressing in that journey of, right, what can I do for myself? How can I help myself? Or they can't see the world in that way, where they can start moving forward in that way. Often I just think it's just as good just to have conversations around them, i.e. like we're doing, maybe talking about anxiety, or how you've been feeling, or how you've maybe like overcame situations in your life where, I was feeling really anxious last week, or I was really struggling with this and I had to do this just having these really open and honest conversations are ways to just plant seeds in people's
Yeah,
heads.
that's good. I
And
like that.
they don't necessarily bloom there and then, but often I'll find that maybe in a week, a month, a year, when they're ready to hear it and understand it, they might recall that conversation and think, oh, I get it now. Or I remember having a conversation with Alex or whoever they've had a conversation with. I'm going to maybe put that into practice and see what that feels like. Because I think sometimes you can receive all this good information, but until you're ready to either receive it and or listen to it, you kind of just put it in your back pocket and go, oh, that doesn't mean anything to me, until you reach a moment in your life where, for whatever reason, it just starts to make sense. And I know I've had conversations in my life with people where I've not been ready to have those conversations, but then a few months later, or even like a couple of years later, I've recalled that conversation being like, oh, I'm going to look into that. Or actually that sounds quite interesting now because I'm really struggling with this, and here's a new thing that I think I should try. And it's just seed planting, I think.
So it's long term, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And that's why, going back to you asking us about how have I got to this stage, it is a long term process. That's life is, as long as you're alive, you're in the game. So you're in the game of trying to survive, and if that means finding a way that gets you through the door, on the street, to work, wherever, then you've got to find that way somehow, and we do, because that's the way we are as humans, really.
I always think as well, like, for all the good and bad qualities that humans do have, I think there is something to be said for how resilient we all are.
God, yeah, man.
Even when we feel like we aren't, even when we're at our lowest ebb and we think things can't get worse, and they do, you still manage to find a way to pull through. And I know some people don't, and that is painful.
Yeah.
But I think often there is an internal strength that we can all grasp onto. And the thing that helps us grasp onto that most is our ability to connect and share our pain, and to allow us to remember that we aren't alone in our pain, and we aren't the only ones who felt it.
Absolutely. It's just simple, really. Live in the moment, be mindful, respect everybody, and just work together. I think that's, and then it's like a mantra. You could say that and then just keep moving, and what we're doing today, I'll walk out of here and think, wow, that was great, and just like, God, I hope Alex does some good editing on it. but it's like that. What an experience, so I think there's a good thing. That's a good thing to keep your mind straight. You're thinking about in the moment here. We're having a nice conversation about serious stuff, but it's important to, I think, to express how you feel, and if someone else can get something from what we're saying, then this is worth it. So for me, this is brilliant. I love it.
And again, it just goes back to that seed planting, just having these conversations and giving people space, like on the internet and stuff, to be privy to the fact that people can chat this openly about stuff, and it is the most comfortable thing in the world. And if anything, I thrive off having these conversations with people, because I'm like, oh my God, like, this is how it should be.
Exactly.
This ease of being open, and this, like, creating a space where people can come into it and just realise that it should be the simplest thing in the world to be able to talk about our struggles and what we're thinking and what we're going through, rather than assume that we have to do it alone, or that we can't share, or that we're burdening somebody by letting them know that I'm going through it.
I mean, when we're going back to the 10 sessions of counselling, it was like, it didn't feel like counselling. It was just like there was somebody who just wanted to talk to us. What's on your mind? Oh, someone, no sort of like bias, or they didn't have any idea who I was. They just let us open up, and it was great. And I was like, and I realised that what I was worried about, really, I just let something pry, and it wasn't much really, but it was enough to make me feel something. And talking to somebody made me more, relaxed about life in general.
As you were saying there, like going to counselling and having somebody who's there to listen, I think, do you think that then feeds into your photography? Because I do think, from a photographer's perspective, when you're taking portraits and documenting people, or you're having these like one-to-one sessions with bands or with individual people, that in order to kind of create a comfortable space, I find that sometimes you have to give up a part of yourself to put them at ease a lot quicker, or provide some sort of a dialogue where you let them know that, like, we're in this together, it's fine, like, I'm not here to take something just from you, I'm giving something back as well. Do you ever find that when you're doing projects or photographing people, that like there's this space that you provide for people to feel comfortable?
Yeah, I mean,
like a counsellor might do for you.
Well, that's the thing, when I do a session, it's like I charge two, one for the photography and one for the counselling. No, seriously, to me that's the whole essence of what I do as a photographer. It's not about counselling, about, to put a label on it. It's about communication, two people respecting each other, or more than two people, or whoever's in the room, but just knowing where we're going with something, and just being creative, and that for 2 hours or an hour or so, we're in a zone where all we're thinking about is being creative. So that in a way is mindful in itself, so hopefully people will come away from a session and just be like inspired, or feel creative themselves, and feel good about themselves. And because I
feel
do,
like they've left,
the brain behind
their own thoughts, and they've just dumped their brain a bit, and it's been like, God, I've just had 2 hours of just fun and not thinking too much.
And that to me, that's just worth everything from a photography point of view. And I think that's the way I don't try to think about it too much, but I have a certain kind of method, I guess. That's it really. Just.
But I like that though, what you've said there. I don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people can think too much. God, I know I do. And sometimes it's nice to just go, you know what? Let's not try and dissect and overthink. Let's just accept this moment for what it is.
Because the thing is, as a photographer, you know how you're going to take the photographs. You know where the light is. You know where that is. So that's all taken care of. So the only thing you've really got to do is work in a position where someone's going to be comfortable, where you can take a photograph of them, and all the talk in between. So it's like you can overthink taking photographs, or you can just see someone and think, you look great in that light, boom, take the photograph, and then you're walking down the street chatting about stuff, and boom, and away you go, another photograph, and then so it goes. So I just think, again, be in the moment, the decisive moment, just stay there, and then the next moment, keep on going. But with that, I feel it sounds like I'm a machine or something, but it's like in the moment, that moment, next moment, on a conveyor belt of moments. But I just think a moment can be an hour, a moment can be 2 hours. That's the kind of moments I'm kind of talking in, in that way.
Yeah, that's a nice way to see it. Well, I think kind of tying up this conversation, because I'm aware that, how long do you think we've been talking here?
God, days.
Feels like a lifetime.
It's like, honestly,
let me go.
It was snowing when we started this.
It was winter, Halloween, summer now. The wheels are falling.
It was like this.
To the end.
It's the moment is over. Oh my goodness, man.
No, but
Brilliant.
This has been lush, man.
Oh, I
I
hope so, Alex.
Appreciate it. Like, I have been looking forward to just sitting down with you since I asked you to do it.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's been lush. So I proper appreciate it, man.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you, man. Brilliant.
Well, let's go and enjoy more of the indoors.
Oh my God.
I think we've both got a talent, just one in
of our bodies. Can we do the interview again?
Yeah, do on the other side.